Is it possible to brew a mead up to a staggering 35% alcohol by volume? That's 70 proof. And if you can, would it even be drinkable? Today, we're going to find out. Here in front of me are the 3 meads that we made. We used 3 different processes to make them, and we're going to show you how we made them. One sits at 18% alcohol, another at 25% alcohol, and the final is 35% ABV. That's 70 proof. And we didn't use any special gear or equipment to make this happen. In fact, we used some very common homebrewing equipment and ingredients, and a little help from a home appliance. Generally, the upper limit you're going to find for a yeast is going to be in a wine or champagne yeast, and it's going to be around 18% ABV. The yeast that we used for these meads is Lalvin's EC1118. It is a high ABV champagne yeast that can go up to 18% alcohol. And that's how we got the meads here. We used a high ABV fermenting yeast, and we put in enough honey initially to get them to about 15% ABV. Then we step-fed more honey to get each of these up to the maximum of 18%. So that's how you get a base mead at a very high ABV. But how do you get to 25% or 35%? We're going to show you. This one was fortified using a neutral spirit. So basically, after fermentation is done, you calculate how much neutral spirit you need. Here we used Everclear, and we did some calculations to come up with a number that we could mix in here to get to 25% on top of the existing 18%. For this one, we did a process called fractional freezing, sometimes called freeze distilling or jacking, and that's when you freeze the mead, and then you let the alcohol melt out and leave the water ice behind. After the initial round of that process, you can take the honey jack and put it back in the freezer. If no water ice forms, you know it's at least 32% ABV. Generally, you're going to average around this number, 35% ABV using freeze distilling. Now, word of warning here, the United States government does not want you freeze distilling. It's written into the law that you shouldn't do that. And so what we're showing you here today is just for informational purposes. We are just illustrating what this process would look like. We're not teaching you how to do it at home. So we're going to show you how to make an 18% alcohol mead. We're going to show you how to take that up to 25% using fortification, or take it up to 35% using fractional freezing. I'm going to color code this next section so it's easy to follow. Batch 1, which we are calling the max yeast mead, will be coded in green. Batch 2, which we're calling fortified freak, will be coded in yellow. And then our final batch, which we're calling the monster, will be coded in red. Just a little frame around the screen to help you keep track of what we're up to. So here is how we made them. All 3 of these meads begin the same way. We're using Hawaiian wildflower honey, and we're mixing them up to a starting gravity of 1.110. That means we used about 2.75 pounds of honey for each of these 1-gallon batches. Once our honey was in, we just mixed them up to 1 gallon and check our gravity to make sure that all of them are exactly the same gravity. And then I rehydrated my yeast using GoFirm, which is a rehydration nutrient. Essentially, it just makes sure that your yeast are getting started on the right foot by absorbing plenty of vitamins and minerals before fermentation begins. Because once you put them in that sugary liquid, sugar is about all they're going to want. I put the lids on and let them ferment. And of course, I used our days 1, 2, and 5 nutrients to make sure the yeast had a healthy fermentation. Once each batch was down to about 1.020, I added some more honey to bring it up to a total potential ABV of 18%. This is called step feeding, and it's just a way of making sure that your yeast are acclimatized before you hit them with even more sugar. About 2 weeks later, fermentation was done, so it was time to get our meads racked over into carboys, and here is where the processes begin to differentiate. For batch 1, we rack it over and let it clear up, and that's all the attention that batch gets. Now, when we rack over batch 2, we're going to be racking it onto Everclear. This is a grain alcohol, and here it is sold as 95% alcohol. And we're going to need around 380 milliliters of Everclear to bring batch 2 up to about 25% ABV. And I calculated this based on the volume of mead that we're transferring over, as well as the current ABV of the mead. With the Everclear in the carboy, we'll just rack that over and let that age and clear. Then lastly, we're racking over batch 3, which will be freeze-distilled. But before we put it in the freezer, we want it to clear up also. So we're just going to put it in a carboy and wait. A few weeks later, our carboy is crystal clear, so it's time to get that racked over to a plastic jug. We don't want to be putting glass in the freezer. Once it's racked over, we are going to squeeze out all the air so that there's some room for expansion inside the bottle, because freezing causes liquids to expand. And then we just pop that in the freezer for 3 days. After it has frozen into a big brick of mead, it's time to do freeze distilling. And basically all we do is tip it upside down over an open vessel and let the alcohol drip out. It will leave the water ice behind, which you can throw away. So we put that back in the plastic jug, and then we're going to stick it in the freezer once more just to ensure that there's no water left. If there is, you'll get some ice crystals on top that you can just filter out. However, this batch was ready to go. It would not refreeze, which means it is at minimum 32% ABV, but when we calculate the volume of ice we removed, we can safely say it's about 35% ABV, which is 70 proof. Then all we have to do is get that transferred into a couple of empty liquor bottles. Then we'll go ahead and get batch 1 bottled up, as well as batch 2. And that gives us 3 different bottles of mead done 3 ways. One at 18%, one at 25%, and one at 35%.
No video like this would be complete without a taste test, so let's do it.
I am recording this video at 10:14 a.m. So, how's your workday going? First up is our 18% mead. This is just a still, dry mead made by maxing out the yeast's alcohol tolerance. No other interference. That's a stiff drink. And there's a very light sweetness in there. Perhaps a little bit, just a touch of leftover honey. These all stopped at 1.000 on the hydrometer, so they are all technically dry by mead standards. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that all the sugars are completely gone because of how high alcohol these are. It can throw off that reading just a little bit. You have to change the formula just a little bit whenever you're coming up to a higher alcohol like this. But there's a nice fun sensation of sweetness in there. It drinks like a very strong mead, and it drinks like a mead that needs probably 2 years of aging in the bottle in order to really shine. Number 2 is our fortified mead. I'm not the biggest fan of Everclear, but the reason we chose Everclear for this instead of a different spirit is we didn't want a lot of water to be added to this. If we were to use vodka or bourbon, something like that, you're adding a lot of water, whereas with Everclear, you're almost exclusively adding alcohol. Everclear here is 95% alcohol. You're literally just fortifying it. You're not really diluting it at all. However, it brings with it no fun characters. You're not getting anything that you would get with bourbon or gin or a honey liqueur. You're getting just a big boost in ABV. You know, with an ice cube, that wouldn't be too bad. It's got the same gentle sweetness of the first one, but you get kind of a flavor enhancing kick out of the alcohol. Almost like when you put vodka and tomato sauce to make a vodka sauce, how it kind of brings out more character. Drinking a wine glass of this might be difficult, but if you were to treat it more like a spirit or a liqueur, I could get behind this. I actually like that one. I was expecting to not. I think I prefer that one over the first one because the complexity of the flavor profile is so much more interesting. And now for the one that underwent fractional freezing. It would probably be reckless for me to taste this last one. Like I said, the government frowns on this process. You're really only supposed to freeze jack a drink up to an additional 0.5% alcohol, which is next to nothing. But some folks will use it to make ice beers, where you concentrate that beer just a little bit more to sweeten it up a little bit and enhance the ABV just a bit. But that's the limit. That's the limit that they set on it. So I would hate to show you a tasting of this one. But if we did taste it, what I would tell you is that it doesn't have the same alcohol burn necessarily as the fortified one, but it would have a slightly sour character that does play kind of nicely against the sweet honey notes in there, but it would almost taste just a little bit on the wrong side of spoiled. It's the type of thing that if you were to age something like this on some oak, maybe an oak spiral, we have those in stock, I could see it rounding out into something that you could enjoy around the holidays. Maybe mix yourself up a hot toddy with a spirit like this. But I think overall, my impression is that the fortified one was actually my favorite, which is not what I was expecting. I was expecting just a regular traditional 18% ABV mead to be my favorite. But this one, fortified up to 25%, it's not so high as to be unpleasant, but it's not so low as to not differentiate itself from the other one. Now, I don't want to leave this up to just my taste buds, so I had a couple of friends try these and give me their thoughts as well.
Ugh. So which one is your favorite?
The first one.
This one's okay. Like you could drink this.
My favorite is. Oh, that's hard. I'm gonna say this number 3.
Number 3 is your favorite.
I'm gonna say number 3 is my favorite.
Okay.
Number 2, I like if it's just like me, if I want something strong and it's something that feels like I'm having a punch. This one, chill it out more, and I'll sit around outside with a bunch of people.
Okay.
I think that's more of the outside, everybody hang. This one feels like it was tailored for me. And I do that on my own time. This one feels like the summertime, springtime vibe for a bunch of people.
There's a really fun world of high alcohol meads out there, but personally, I would encourage you to look at some of the Polish styles like the Dwoźniak. These styles are made to be higher alcohol, and they're made to be a nice balance between alcohol and sweetness, as well as other balancing like tannins and acids. And I think a Dwoźniak, it really is the style that captures what we're trying to go for here, but it is entirely contingent on your ability to hone your craft, get a complete fermentation, and balance on the other end. If you want to skip all of that fuss and you're not interested in diving into historical styles, I think a fortified mead in the style that we did, the fortified freak here, is the key to your success. Do you have other comments, ideas, or thoughts on what we did here, trying to make the highest ABV mead at home? Drop a comment and let us know. And if you like content like this, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content here at CraftaBrew. I'm BC, here for CraftaBrew, and until next time, I hope you've got good things brewing and fortifying.